What's happening, everybody? Welcome to sharpenthehustle.com podcast. I'm here with a good friend and an awesome branding guy, Henry Kaminski Jr.
What's going on, Jess? Happy to be here, my man.
Dude, well, yeah, I'm super excited to have you on today, man. I love what you've been putting out. I love what you've done for me, and so, man, I just want to give you the opportunity to share your story with the audience. So. It's great.
Well, dude, congrats to you on the new podcast. Like, that was like something you had mentioned, you had consulted to me about, and I was like, dude, I think I was a little hesitant at first, right? And then I said, you know what? I think this would be an awesome platform for you to kind of get your name out and get you out there in front of more people. So just want to give you a huge shout out for taking the next step and actually making it happen.
Dude, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Awesome, man. So, Henry, the aim in this is to talk to startup and early stage business owners. When I say early stage, man, I'm talking about business owners that are just trapped in the daily operations. They're grinding, they're hustling, they're making a little bit of money, but they know that there's more to this. And I know you've been through that process. So if you would just take a minute, tell us your story, man. Tell us where you are in your company right now.
Sure. So again, my name is Henry Kaminski from Unique Designz.net, and I own a design and branding firm right outside of New York City, about 30 minutes out. And I help entrepreneurs, specifically coaches and consultants, create better brand identities through beautiful design and help them craft their messaging. So it takes a little strategy there, but helps them craft their messaging so that they can connect with their ideal client. And so it's more than just design. Obviously, Jesse, you're a client of mine now for close to a year. So, you know that it's just more than spitting out, high level or high quality design with me. We like to grow with our clients. So it's a lot of intentional work. It's a lot of strategy. It's a lot of the blood, sweat, and tears I've put into building my personal brand over the last 10 years and giving all of that knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to my clients to help them grow theirs. So it's a pretty dynamic and comprehensive service that I offer, where a lot of folks typically may just be looking for a one-off designer to help them create certain, one-off projects, but that's not how I redeveloped my model over the past 16 to 18 months. I really wanted to grow with and not just be there when somebody needed another design done. It just wasn't fulfilling to me anymore, And so from there, we actually grew the business 40% last year.
Awesome.
That was just dialing into target audience and finding our niche and helping to serve those clients at the highest level. So, I'm not the cheapest guy on the block, but I believe that I deliver a service that is far and few from the many that are out there, that really helps folks like you, get the results you're looking for.
So what's interesting to me here is, tell me how you got there, because obviously you didn't start out with that foundation. Tell me a little bit of the backstory, and then maybe some of the key elements that helped you make this transition and what you've seen as a result of that.
Sweet. Yeah. So basically what happened was I fell into graphic design by accident. I was working at a local hospital. I was working in that facility for 8 years and was struggling and hustling to work my way up the ranks. And I remember when I first got that job right out of college, I was literally cleaning coffee pots for half the day. And it was a small entry-level position, and eventually I went for every freaking promotion that ever was posted. I went for it, that I thought I had a chance at, right? And eventually I landed my position at the Sudden Infant Death Syndrome Center in the Children's Hospital.
Yeah.
And basically what I was responsible for was developing fundraising events And also taking the funds that we raise and creating events for all the families in the state of New Jersey who lost a child to sudden infant death syndrome. So it was a very rewarding position. I got to learn a lot of project management skills. I was basically an event designer, an event planner, if you will, for this division. And I met a ton of people. And the one day I was sitting there at my desk trying to figure out what is my next fundraiser going to be. And I was listening to Z100. It was one of the biggest radio stations in New York. And I was listening to the morning show in my office, and they kept Danielle at the time, who was part of the morning show, was just about to have a baby, or she was pregnant with her second kid. And she said, and I said, you know what? She might be an awesome person to connect with to see if she'd be able to sponsor an event of some sort. So I was only maybe 25, 26 at the time. And I was in the nightclub life, and I was going out every Wednesday to Sunday and having a good time. So I met a lot of people that either own nightclubs or promoted for nightclubs. And so I said, why don't we do an event at one of my buddies at nightclubs and see how much money we can drum up. So I reach out to Danielle, literally cold turkey via email, and I introduced myself. And a couple days later, she actually wrote me back. And so she brings us into, so she writes me back. I get on the phone with her. I was like my heart was palpitating because I was like, I can't believe I'm talking to her right now. So I gave her my idea, and she said, I talked to Elvis and he wants to support this 100%. So we're going to have you on one of our shows and you can promote the event and all that. I was floored. So fast forward, we needed marketing material. We needed to promote this event. So my buddy Jerry at the time was heavily in the nightclub industry, doing a lot of the design work for the flyers that would promote the event. And so I asked him, could you help me create the marketing material? And he said, sure. So I sat next to him and one Sunday morning, and we cranked out posters and flyers and brochures and all this stuff for the event. And I was just fascinated by graphic design as a whole. I just didn't know what it was. Yeah. And when I saw him creating my idea, right in front of my eyes, I was like, I want to do that.
Man.
So, fast forward, we do the event. We raised a ton of money. It was an awesome event. I'm like, all right, well, I want to do more of that. So how do I do that? So I convinced my boss to actually buy me the Photoshop program. And I said, now we don't have to hire these folks anymore to do all this. I'll do it. So slowly but surely, I started to educate myself on design and started to do all of the stuff in-house. Yeah. And so it started to build up a little bit of a outside business now that I'm telling people what I'm doing as a hobby. And they were like, oh, you're pretty good at this stuff. Now, I think they were just blowing smoke up my ass because I was awful.
Looking back at it, how embarrassed would you be by that
stuff? Oh my God, some of the stuff. So anyway, so I did that for about 3 years, and things started to tighten up at the hospital, meaning they were under reviews and, there was a lot of stuff going down, and they started to consolidate and really started to tighten up what was going on. And eventually my position got whittled down to a secretarial administrative position. Yeah. And I said to myself at that point, I have a decision to make, a very big one. I could stay here and kind of go backwards in my career, or I could take the plunge and try Unique Designz out as a business and see what happens.
Dude, can we pause here for a second? Because I want to ask you a question, man. I want to ask you to talk to people that are in that position right now, where they're doing work that maybe they don't necessarily love, but they're developing, they're growing. What advice or what encouragement would you give them in that spot?
You got to stick it out, and you got to grind. And that's the work that's going to mold you for years to come.
Yeah.
And so you got to go through it, and it's going to be grueling, and it's going to be tough, and you're going to hate it, and it's going to suck. But I have to tell you, looking back 10 years, I am so happy that I went through those trials and tribulations, because I now know what not to do.
Yeah, I know you well enough to know, man, you see a bunch of entrepreneurs trying to make premature launches, and I know it frustrates you, man. So it does me too. So, man, I can appreciate that. I know some people need to hear that today.
And it's funny because I just had a conversation with another colleague of mine right before this podcast, and he said there's so many people out there right now trying to work on step 15 when it comes to branding, and they didn't even do step 1 yet.
Yeah, man, I bet you see it all the time.
Yeah, that's a big, that's an epidemic, Jess.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even a problem, it's an epidemic.
Let's talk to that towards the end, and make sure we're addressing that, and let people know from a branding standpoint what they need to have together for you guys to operate. But so right now, let's go back to you starting your company, kind of early days, and then how you made the transition to where you are.
Yeah. So I'm trying to move as quickly as I can.
No, you're good, dude.
Yeah. Not all the minutia, but so anyway, took the plunge. First year did $248,000 in revenue. And that gave me the chops to know that I was good at something, and that I could make this a business if I really continued the work. And so I was a hustler, man. And I still am. Like, there's really nothing that I'll never be without money, because I will just do what I have to make it happen, to make it work. Right. So it wasn't all pretty. I mean, after that, my first 3-4 years, I made my first $1 million after year 3.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's only going to get better, right? Every year I'm just going to get better and better, and it's going to grow and grow and grow.
That's the way it always works.
Right? And it didn't happen. So when the financial, crisis hit, I was actually at my peak. Like, I was doing the most revenue I ever did ever. And so I was like, I didn't feel it. Right. And I think that was a blessing in disguise. Right. I didn't feel the pinch, but what happened was, believe it or not, was Hurricane Sandy came through my neighborhood. When was that? 2012 or 13, somewhere around there. I think it was 2012. And believe it or not, a natural disaster almost wiped me out. Wow. So a couple of things happened. So as I was maturing as a person, I started to get out of the nightlife industry, and the nightlife industry was very competitive. It started to really dry up, and the competition got so bad where people were starting to do designs now for like $15. I was like, that's not going to pay the bills. I got to get out of here. So I was struggling with that because I didn't want to fulfill that industry anymore. I shouldn't say fulfill. That work wasn't fulfilling me anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I said, I need to change, but I don't know how, because I was getting these little one-off projects from these corporate businesses, and I was loving it, right? Because that's where the real money was. But I didn't know how to really take the plunge or jump, because I had so much clientele built up in the nightlife industry.
Yes.
So eventually I bit the bullet and I said, listen, it's driving me crazy, and I can't live my life like this anymore. I'm working 20 hours a day, for $50 a pop. It's just it doesn't add up, right? The quality of life is more important to me. I got married, and, so anyway, what happened was Hurricane Sandy hit and wiped out 2 of my biggest corporate clients, and each of them combined probably brought in about $250,000 of revenue. Yeah. And so when they got wiped out and restructured, they said, sorry, Henry, we're bringing this in-house. it was almost like deja vu, right? With me working at the hospital. And so they said, we're not going to be able to have you as a vendor anymore. And I said, $250,000 to recoup is a lot to handle. And how do you do that?
Yeah.
And that's where everything started to crumble. And so year 5, I'm looking in the mirror going, okay, you're down to 10 grand. You're down to 5 grand. You got $1,000 left in your bank account. You're negative 2,500 this week. What do you do? So I literally jumped on Fiverr and to boot, right? To put the icing on the cake, Fiverr comes out. So that's like double whammy.
Yeah.
Now what? The jobs that I used to do for $200-$300, they're doing it for $5. What?
Man, I can't happen, but I'm thinking of the email you wrote today. I mean, the crack house and the crack projects. I mean, the $5.
It was crazy. So, I joined Fiverr as a designer, just to kind of keep the hustle sharpened, right? And keep the money coming in, as best I could. And I said, this isn't working, I remember this one woman drove me insane for a business card design, which she paid $5 for, and she drove me through the mud. 6 hours I worked on that project. Do the math.
$5, huh?
$5. There's like 30 cents an hour or something, right? So I was like, what do I do? So I reached out to, here's the story. I'm scrolling through my Facebook feed. I see $1 trial for a private Facebook group and some digital marketing training. And I said, you know what? Now's the time. I have $1 left. Let me see what I can get out of this. And so I squeezed every freaking penny out of that buck. And I went in and I started to see this whole new world of digital marketing. And I really started to dive in deep and start to understand business psychology, selling online specifically, and saw a completely different world. And then bumped into a program called ClickFunnels and wanted to know more about that, and really resonated with the co-founder, and signed up for one of his big ticket coaching programs. And it was like, I didn't have the money. I whipped out the old credit card and I said, it's not if this works, it's when this works. I will be a better person. I will be a better entrepreneur. And so I took the plunge. I gave the guy 10 grand and I said, help me, because I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. That first call, we were both hysterical, crying on the phone. And that day on the spot, he hired me to help him with his book launch.
Yeah.
Then he started to really coach me on this program that he came out with, and I got really good at designing inside of the software. So I started to level up my value. I wasn't this designer anymore. I was this strategist, this branding expert, this person that really knew the design game, but also started to become really savvy with direct response marketing and how to take a design and have that design make you money, right? Instead of just pretty.
Yeah.
And so eventually I started to bail myself out of the leaky boat. And within 16 months, I had generated over $500K in revenue. And so I was back. I was back hustling again. And then go ahead.
I love it. I love how I think to compete as a designer, you saw that was there was just a short run for that. There wasn't a ton of ability to do that. But what you did was you leveled up. You created innovation. You understood why is design important? What does it affect? How does it affect it? I mean, you asked the questions. You dug deep. You looked at it beyond what you were delivering. You looked at it in the end use of the customer. And how does this benefit them? And that's what I've I've loved about working with you.
Right. And it's we thinking versus I thinking.
Yeah.
When I first started the business, I was very I focused and I was very, very money driven.
Yeah.
And I eventually changed that. Listen, I'm not going to lie to you or your audience today and say revenue doesn't get me fired up. You know what I mean? And profits aren't what drives me to do more and to get better, right? We're all in business to make money.
Absolutely.
Profitable, right? But business is a team sport.
Yep.
And what I realized was I cannot do this on my own if I want to get to the next level.
That's it, man. That's huge.
So what did I do? I started to replace myself ever so slowly. So when I first started, I was the accountant. I was the marketer. I was the salesperson. I was the designer. I was out there collecting money. I was the delivery boy.
Yeah.
I did it all.
Yeah.
And eventually it catches up to you. And you say to yourself, now what?
Yep. Those 20-hour days will burn you out, man.
Yeah. I remember the day like it was yesterday. It was a Saturday morning. It was a Saturday afternoon. It was about 4:00 in the afternoon. And I had pulled like an all-nighter. And I still had another probably 6 hours of work to go. And I said, is this what this is all about? Now, I was generating so much revenue at the time, I didn't even have time to spend it. Yep. And I said, this isn't what I signed up for. This isn't fun. I created a glorified job for myself.
Yep.
That's what I did out of a hobby, which is cool. But anyway, how do you get out of this?
Yeah.
How do you get out of this mess? So it's funny. It's just like different challenges presented themselves at different parts of the journey. And it was, once you put out one fire, another fire sprouted over here. And, it's just as entrepreneurs, that's the name of the game. There's always going to be a fire to put out. Yep. It's just a matter of getting efficient at putting them out.
Yeah. I think you can even take it a level further and trying to forecast where they're going to be. It's not worth spending a lot of time on, but if you start to understand the processes and the systems, a lot of times you can get there ahead of time and create some prep so that it's not as big of an issue.
So to piggyback on that, that's what systematized Unique Designz about a year and a half ago. So as I was learning how to replace myself, the biggest problem that I dealt with was, all right, you tell me I need a team. Okay. I have no problem delegating work, but how do I train these people? If I hire somebody, how do I tell them what to do? What kind of system do I need? What kind of process do I need? So I actually spent quite a bit of money at that point and hired somebody to help me build out the system. And he taught me how to actually do that. And so I immediately implemented it into the business, hired my first project manager, and then had her hire the first designer. And then it just was a well-oiled machine after that. And so we developed this processing system inside of the business where now I can do these podcasts all day and go out there and connect with the target audience that I want to serve while my team is hustling and doing what I used to do.
Yeah.
That's the power of scale.
Here's a question for you. How long do you think it would have taken you to get there? And do you think you would have gotten there without that influence?
No, see, I always say, like, if there was only, I'm not a big regrets person. I live a beautiful life. I really am the last person that should ever complain about anything. Yeah. But everybody says, don't focus on your regrets. If there's one thing that I think that if I could do it all over again, it would have been year 1 or 2 or year 3 after I was at my peak. Instead of being cocky about it, I wish I would have reinvested in myself and in the business to get the coach, to get the consultant to help me maintain it and scale it back then.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to ask you earlier to speak to that, to the young entrepreneur that's had some success right out of the gate. And what would you tell them?
Get a coach, man. Get a coach, get a mentor, get somebody that can help. Here it is, man. And this is kind of like the blueprint. It's finding somebody that is crushing it like you want to crush it in the future.
Yep.
And study them.
Yep.
You know, study them. I'm a big Gary Vaynerchuk fan. Like, he's from Jersey. I'm from Jersey. We are kindred spirits. I mean, a lot of his values and what he stands for is a lot of what's inside of me. Now, do I agree with everything that he says and does? No, but I am paying attention to not only how he's doing it, but what he's doing it, what he's doing, and I'm taking notes and I'm applying it and I'm doing it every day and I'm seeing some great results. Yep. Right. And it's modeling. It's not copying. I don't have the same design style as him. Right. I'm trying to cut down on my cursing. This guy just,
yeah, he doesn't help a lot.
I'm trying to get a little bit more polished with that stuff. But modeling somebody that's achieving the success that you've had, or that you want, would be key. And so let me give some practical things. I mean, reaching out to those folks and seeing how you can work for free for them. Lewis Howes talks about that a lot. I have people DMing me and PMing me all day long. Can I work for you for free? And listen, you got to tell me your story first. I'm not just going to hire, I'm not going to bring somebody on board because it's going to take me time to kind of mentor them. Right. Yeah. So it's one thing, but sharing your story, and this is where we can kind of make the turn and kind of go into some branding stuff.
Yeah.
When people have something to grab a hold of, i.e. your branding, your backstory, right? That is the first step into attracting the right person that you want to serve. And the problem that I had back in the day was I blew up too fast. I got cocky. I was very pretentious. I was very into the stuff. And don't get me wrong, I still love my stuff. Right? But I don't necessarily work for that stuff now. I work for my client.
To clarify the stuff, you're talking about material goods, right?
Yeah, material goods. Now, my wife is probably snickering in the background going, that's why I won't preface that. And I do. So I'm going to keep it real with you. But the problem that I had was I was somebody that I wasn't. I was putting on a show for people that really knew who I was and would kind of call me out on it sometimes. And I would shun them. So this is some personal stuff that I want you to get, because it will derail your success tremendously. Because if you're not authentic, if you're not transparent, if you're not keeping it real, you're going to attract the wrong people.
Yeah,
and that's exactly what happened to me. I was attracting all of these, I mean, just nightmare-ish clients. And it was really taking a toll on my physical health.
Yeah. And
I said, how do I fix that? So part of the story of the journey was that I actually got a mindset coach. I actually found somebody that kind of helped me rewire the way I thought. And,
so cool.
And again, it was a big investment. It was another investment, but I said, now I'm getting smarter. I'm getting older. I'm getting smarter. And that helped tremendously shift, my why. And when I got my new why out there to the world, that is when I started to attract the right people. And that's where everything changed. And so being transparent, being authentic, and just sharing with people your true self. And this is something nobody can help you with but you. You got to be the first person to say, all right, I'm willing to get the help, right? And then you have to take action on it, right? So now you have to put the guard down and say, hey guys, this is me, and this is what I stand for. This is what I believe in. And this is truly how I want to live my life, why I want to live my life. Because people are going to buy your why before they buy your service, first and foremost. Yeah. They want to know what makes you tick. And this is human nature. We are all attracted to us, people like us. So, we're going to resonate with somebody who likes the Giants, the New York Giants, before we resonate with somebody who likes the New York Jets, specifically, especially if we're a Giants fan.
Yeah.
Same thing goes with morals and values and what your brand stands for, right? So having a platform to stand on to get that out to the world is key.
Man, this is a great transition. So what does an entrepreneur need to bring a designer to be effective? And what does a designer need from their clients for you guys to do what you do at the highest level? And what are some of the common mistakes you see?
Yeah. So first and foremost, he needs to know who he wants to work for. Who does he want to serve? That's first and foremost, right? And then you need to pay specific attention to your brand's identity, what you want that to look like, your brand's messaging, what you want that to sound like, and your brand's experience. What do you want your audience to feel? What do you want them to feel?
So I know a lot of entrepreneurs, and when they're approaching this subject, a lot of them want to go to somebody and have that all be a done for them type thing. What's your take on that?
Well,
what happened? What's the fallacy in that?
Well, we can certainly execute.
Yeah.
The vision, the messaging, and the experience. We can certainly execute that for the entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But you need to build it first. The entrepreneur needs to build it first. So they gotta have a vision.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to answer your question specifically is you gotta have a vision, right? That you want to bring to life. And then let us help craft that.
Yeah.
Make it a reality for you and help you strategize so that we can help you make money with that vision.
Yeah. Yeah. Right? Do you see that approach? And I know you probably weeded out a lot of these clients, and that's probably what frustrated you about a lot of the past stuff, where they want to dump stuff in your hands and say, go do it, without building the context, without building the vision, the mission.
Again, a lot of them came to me step 15 when they needed to handle step 1 first.
What's funny is your process of weeding them out added so much value to your what you do today. I mean, so now you understand how to grab an entrepreneur, how to say, man, I hear where you're trying to go, but this is how we get there. And you literally build that bridge with them. And that's what I've enjoyed about working with you. Thank
you. I appreciate that. Yeah. I mean, I try to break things down into like caveman simplicity, and I learned this from one of my mentors. Like, if your brand doesn't pass the grunt test, it's too complicated.
Yeah.
It's like, for me, it's be seen, be heard. Like, that's what
awesome.
That's what I truly help, my clientele do. Be seen and be heard. And do it at a level where you're going to attract that right clientele. And so if your brand, if you can't explain what you do in that simplistic format, it's tough. It's really tough to get people to understand what it is that you actually do. So breaking things down into 3s. So if you take Unique Designz and put it through this process, it's strategy, design and build, and execution. Or launch, if you will. And those 3 things is what we take people through. And you can't put the cart before the horse.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Last question, last topic of conversation. Are you good on time?
Oh, yeah, plenty.
Okay. Where are you headed, man? What do you see? Where's your business going?
Yeah. So, now that we are celebrating our 10th year, and I say we because I have a team of 16 people now in total.
Yep.
I mean, I have two design teams, a project manager. It's a big virtual outfit now. And one of the things when I was getting my master's degree, a lot of people don't even know I have a master's degree, but I got my master's degree in business management. And I always wanted to create a team. I always did want to build a team, but I had this other vision.
Why?
Because I always wanted to inspire people. Ever since I was a little kid, I could tell you stories for hours of little magic moments that happened in the 4th grade, 6th grade, 8th grade, in college, right? There's a reason why I think I had the experiences that I had growing up. So I always wanted to inspire people. And in my opinion, the way that you inspire people or impact people is to put them into positions that they will excel, they will blossom, they will bloom. And I just thought that looked like, to me back in the day, that looked like a big office in New York City on the 52nd floor, with rows of designers and laptops and screens, and me walking up and down the aisles looking at people's projects. And I come to realize that, like, you need capital for that. You need that's a lot of overhead, right? And is that realistic today? Could I make that happen today? Yes, but I don't want to do that because I value my time more.
Yeah.
And my quality of life is more important to me. So if I can do the same thing and get the same fulfillment virtually, I'd rather do that.
Yeah.
And so now that I've built that, it's now getting to the point where I'm hitting my numbers every month, and then I'm setting a new goal and hitting those numbers every month.
Yeah.
And scaling the team slowly, steadily, and with a great foundation, and just trying to impact and serve as many coaches and consultants I possibly can before I leave this earth, and helping people really see their true potential, because I feel like people are only running on 4 of their cylinders when they really have 12 cylinders inside of them. And me being able to pull that out with my personality and my superpower of communication and my design superpower and branding expertise, it's not just about design for me.
Yeah.
It's about empowering people.
Yeah. Man, that's awesome. That's beautiful. That's ultimately the goal in all of this. Make enough capital to live the life you want and create impact.
I know, and Gary talks about this a lot. There's people that make $80,000 a year and are happy as pigs and shit.
Yep.
And you know what? That's good for them. I feel like as entrepreneurs, I think one common denominator is that we are always setting the bar a little bit higher every time we reach our goal. And I think that's the key to success, guys. Like to wrap this up, is a very successful entrepreneur answered me this question. And I think it's something that I will tell my kids and tell my people coming up, is the secret to success is setting a goal, accomplishing it, and then setting another one right away.
Yep.
Right away.
Yep.
And that's entrepreneurship.
Yep.
I don't think there's ever going to be enough.
Yep.
Right? And I don't think you're ever going to come to the end of the road and be like, I'm good. At least not for me. At least not for me. I mean, and that's why
I really
go ahead. Replacing yourself.
I believe that tapping into that spot between where you are and where you want to be and living there, man, that's where joy and fulfillment is. That's where it all comes from. That's why more is always the answer.
Yeah, and making realistic goals for yourself, you know, and setting milestones, setting benchmarks, because when you set a astronomical goal, right, it's very hard to accomplish. But if you chunk that goal down into little micro steps, you're going to get there way quicker and way more efficiently than trying to take that massive leap. And so that's where I say stepping it out, you know, chunking it down is because when you accomplish that first chunk, that first goal, it's going to give you the confidence to go after the second one. And then it starts to compound. And that's how you get to where you want to be. You know, just imagine you crossing a large stream, right? If you tried to cross that stream and there was no little stepping rocks, you know, spread apart 2-3 feet at a clip to get you from the one side to the other, you would have to spend a tremendous amount of energy to run and try to clear that whole pond or that whole stream by itself at one clip. Whereas if you saw the opportunity to get those rocks and kind of lay them out and go boop, 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 it's less energy and it's more efficient.
And nowhere near as risky.
And nowhere, exactly.
Not going to drown in the process.
Exactly. So, you know, I hope I shared some value with you guys today, you know, for everyone who's listening and for you, Jess, because there's a lot that we discussed. And just understanding that if you don't have a vision, everything is just fluff. It's just, everything is airy.
Yeah.
But when you have a vision and you focus, now it becomes real. Now you actually have a target to go after.
Yeah.
Right? And now you just have to do. You have to do it. And you got to put in the work. You got to put in the time. That you know, next day millionaire syndrome doesn't exist.
And if it does, a storm can wipe you out.
Just like that. Just like that, as it did me.
Yep.
So.
Well, dude, that's awesome. Thank you for your time. Where can our audience connect with you? Where do they need to go to link up and figure out more about what you do?
Sure. So you can check me out on Instagram. It's Unique_Designz with a Z. My YouTube channel is Unique Designz by the HMK Group. And on Facebook, you know, Henry Kaminski Jr. And obviously my website, Unique Designz with a Z at the end, .net.
That's awesome, man. Thank you for your time, bro. Have a great day.
Jess, thanks a lot, brother.